This conference will now be recorded.
Can you hear me? Guys, today class will go with the Git basically. Actually, microservice that what is happen. But today class I'll go for the one news of new tool, which is like version distributed version control system. But the basic like Git, right? So we'll talk about the Git today. Guys, Git is a Git first class, Git class one. I'll upload this videos in YouTube also. Just you can check the videos in YouTube also. So here Git is a like distributed version control system. It is like just like version control distributed version control system. This is a Git class one. Yeah, Git. Guys, Git is basically in the morning when you join the company, guys. When you join the company, when you go to the company, they said like they'll give the Git URL. They'll give the Git URL. You need to download the data from the Git, right? You need to download the data from the Git, and we need to process the data, right? Yeah. When you join the company, guys, morning they'll give the Git URL, simple word. They'll give the Git URL. From the Git, we need to pull the project. We need to pull the project. We need to do the modifications on the Git. Because after doing the modifications, at the end of the day, we need to push the code to the Git, right? That's a common process in everyday daily life you done. Only to remember the point, every day morning, pull the data from the Git, pull the code from what? Pull the, tell me, pull the code from the Git. Pull the code from the Git, perform the modifications, right? Modifications, push the project to Git, push the project to Git, right? Yeah. Okay, this is the daily life steps what we are going to do in real time, right? Pull the code from the Git based on the Git URL. Pull the code from the Git, perform the modifications, like perform the operations, push the project to Git, right? Again tomorrow morning, again we need to pull the code from the Git, perform the modification, push the project to what? Git, right? Exactly. So basically, Git is a open source distributed version control system, right? Okay, so which is basically Git is a VCS tool, version control system, VCS tool. What the version? What is VCS full for? Version, version control what? Version control system, right? Yeah, it's like open source distributed version control system, open source distributed version control system, right? Exactly. So before Git, what the problem, before Git, there are problems with before Git. The problems before Git. Before Git, guys, versioning the project is very difficult. I need to maintain the version 1, version 2, version 3. Like that, I have to maintain the code. Generally, we have to make the multiple folders, guys. Multiple folders in before the Git. So the first point is what project versioning problem. I need to maintain the project version 1, version 2, version 3. In Git, I can maintain the version tools, right? Yeah, project version problems. So to overcome this project version problems, we are using Git. Next one is what sharing and merging problem. I want share the code, sharing and what merging problems, right? Sharing and what merging problems. These are the problems without Git. And the last problem is, tell me guys, project version problems, sharing and what merging problems. The third one is what code tracking problems. Code tracking, okay, code tracking problems, right? Yeah. Majorly to overcome this problem, project version control problem, merging problem, code tracking problem. To overcome these problems, generally we are going for the Git. The problems before Git, right? These are problems before Git, guys. You got the point, right? Yeah, Git is a version control system, and every day in the company, pull the code from the Git, perform the modification, push the project to the Git. The problems before Git is what project versioning problems we have, share code sharing and merging problems, code tracking problems, right? Exactly. See guys, in the real time, we have the multiple developers are working on the project. Multiple developers are working on the project means we need to share the code and we need to merge the code. Yes or not? We need to we need to track the code what the developers are doing, right? Because we need to share the code, merge the code, track the code, what the modifications they are doing, and we need to maintain the project versions also. Version 1, version 2, version 3, like that, right? Yeah, to perform these operations, project versioning, to share the data properly to the developers, to merge the developers code, to track the code modifications what they are doing. We are going for what the software here? Git, right? Is that clear now? Git is a version control system used for the tracking the changes in what you can say source files, right? Yes, tracking the changes in the code files, right? Exactly. I think you got the clarity about Git, right? But the Git, tell me, Git mainly work for what problems here? To track the code changes by the multiple developers and to share the code between the multiple developers, to merge the code between the developers, and to maintain the version of the project, right? Because you got the pointer? Yeah. So to because in the project multiple people are working. In project, tell me in project multiple developers are working. Multiple developers are working. So using Git, you can track the problems, right? We can what you can say here? We can track the code. The first one is what? We can track the code, right? Number one. And we can share the code properly to the developers, right? We can, what you can say here, share the code. We can track the code. We can share the code. We can perform the merge the code between the multiple developers. Okay, we can what? We can merge the code. We can, what you can say here, merge the code, and we need to maintain the. We can maintain. Tell me, maintain the versions of the project, right? Versions of the project. Guys, versions of the Watama project, right? Exactly. Guys, in the project, multiple developers are working. So using Git, we can track the code, we can share the code, we can merge the code, we can maintain the versions of the project, right? Because we can maintain what? Versions of the project. I think this is a Git, guys, basically. I think you got the point, right? Before the Git, the problems are sharing problems, merging problem, tracking problem, versioning problem. In project, multiple developers are working. So using Git, we can track the code, what the developers are doing. We can track the code, what the developers are doing. We can share the code among the multiple developers. We can merge the code of the multiple developers, and we can then maintain the versions of the project, right? Exactly. And we can secure your code, right? We can secure your code in central repository. As we can secure your code, it's at single place, right? At single, we can secure your code, right? Exactly. How can you secure the code means every day you are maintaining the code at local system or remote system, right? Like what you can say, remote servers, guys, remote repository. In the remote repository, if you maintain the data, then what happened? Definitely data is secure, right? See, for example, if everything is there in your laptop, everything is there in your laptop is crashed. Once your laptop is crashed, then what happened here? Complete data will lost, right? Yes, complete data will lost. Yes, I think you got the clarity, right? So that's what you can track the code among the multiple developers. We can share the code among multiple developers. We can merge the code of the multiple developers. We can maintain the versions of the project. We can secure your code at a remote repository, right? Guys, at what? Remote repository. At remote repository, right? That is the advantage of the Git, guys. Advantage of the Git, right? Exactly. Guys, the mainly the version there are three types of version control systems. Because we have there are how many types more? Four types of. There are four types of version control. Version control. There are four types of version control systems here. What is number one? Number one, number two, number three. Guys, first one is the local version control system. Local means within the system, right? Local version control, what you can say here, system, right? Local version control system, number one. Next one is what? Central version control system. Okay, central central version control system. The third one is the distributed version control system, guys. Distributed means what? Among multiple developers. Multiple developers, they can pull the code. What I can say? They can pull the code. Tell me, they can pull the code. They can perform modification, push the project. Even offline, they can work for the project. Because multiple developers, they can pull the code. In offline, they can work the project. When they got the online, then you can get the push the project, right? Exactly. That is called what version control system? Distributed version control. Tell me, guys. Distributed version control system, right? Guys, I hope you are writing the notes, right? Guys, all of you, please write the notes. Even we are watching what YouTube. You're watching in what? YouTube. Make the notes. Take the Git class 1. You write the point. Try to get some information. So what the Git is? Git is what? Git is a VCS tool. Version control system. So what is the purpose of the Git? General in the daily life. When you join the company, pull the project from the Git. Git contains project simply. Git is a repository. Maintain your project, right? Yes, Git is a repository. Maintain the project. Pull the code from the Git. Pull code from the Git. Perform the modification. Push the code to Git. That's all. Problems without Git is what? Among the multiple developers, project versioning problems we have, code sharing problems we have, code merging problems we have. Otherwise, can I write the like code? What you can say? Code sharing problem. Okay, code sharing problem. Number C, like what? Code merging problems. Because the developers are working for the same module, we need to go for the merging problems, right? Code merging problems, code tracking problems, right? Uh, to overcome this problem, yeah, before the git, and even we need to maintain the code is secure or not secure. Code is not tell me, code is what? Not secure, right? Because you have to maintain the code in the our local systems, then code is not secure. But remote repository means what? Code is there in the central repository, right? Then code definitely will be secure, right? Exactly. Because in project, multiple developers are working, multiple developers are working on project. So using Git, we can track the code, we can track the code, we can share the code, and we can merge the code, and we can maintain the versions of the project, and we can secure your code at remote repository, right? In one place. I think you got the clarity about what is Git, right? Yes. Guys, how many types of version control system? There are three types here. One is local version control system, central version control system, distributed version control system. In daily life project, what we need to do in the company? In the company, pull the code from the Git, perform the modifications, push the code to the Git, push the project to Git, right? Exactly. Guys, here we need to understand one terminology. There are two types of repositories, guys. There are how many types of repositories? There are two types of repositories. If terminology is important, there are two types of repositories. What is the number one? Local repository. Nothing but folder, local folder. Local, okay, repository. Local repository is nothing but system repository, guys. System repository means what? Local system repository, right? Local repository means system repository. Got the point? Huh? Yeah, terminology. Second one is what? Local repository. Second one is what? Remote repository. Remote means what? Some other place, right? Remote, okay, repository. Yes, remote repository means server repository. Local repository means our system repository. Remote repository means server repository. Actually, I told that pull the project from the Git. When you pull the project from the Git, the data comes to our local system. That is local repository. Once the operation is done, we need to push the project to Git. Push the project to Git means remote repository. Got the point, right? There are two types of repository. One is a local repository. One is what? A remote repository, right? Remote repository is nothing but what? A server. Yeah, practically we'll see these all the points, guys. How to track the code, how to share the code, merge the code, versions of the code. We'll see the practically all the points, okay? So central server repository, right? Uh, you got the clarity, right? Yes. Okay, very clear now. Well, these are the points. First, we need to understand what is the Git. What is the Git, right? Exactly. Because you got the clarity, right? What is the purpose of the Git? What is the VCS? The problems before the Git, the advantages of the Git, right? There are three types of version control systems we understood. There are two types of what repositories, local repository and what a remote repository, right? Exactly. Guys, now let me can I install the repository now? Git next video. What we can say? Yes, next video will install and now we'll install installation process. Let me go for the installation process in the next video. So I think we got the clarity about Git class 1, right? Class 1, we understood what is the Git, right? Version control system. Pull the code from the Git. Guys, it's an open source tool. It is a open source tool. So Git is a free open source tool, guys. Git is a it is a free open source tool. Open source tool. It is a free open source tool given by created by or given a person, guys, that is Lunus, Lynus. You can pronounce whatever way you need. Given by Lunus, Tor Valds, Torvalds or something. Given by Tor. The same person created Linux kernel, guys. The same person, everyone knows Linux, right? Linux kernels, right? The same person who created Linux kernel. Yes, who created what? Linux kernel in 2005. The same person is created Linux kernel. You got the point, right? The same person is created what? A Linux kernel. Okay, Git is an open source tool given by this person, Linus. What the purpose of Git? To version the to track the changes, to share the code, to manage the code, to maintain the versions, and to secure your code as a remote repository, right? Just to secure the code in what? Remote repository. I think under terminals is what there are two types of repositories. Local repository means system repository, the code that we maintain in our system. Remote repository means what, Amma? Server repository, right? Guys, remote repository means what? Server repository or not? So you got the point, right? Yes, that is the information, guys. Yes, local version control system. Just you can check the data once. Uh, yes, local version of control system means they can share the data into the what you can say, like copy the files from one computer to another computer, guys. Just you can check that local control system, local version control system, center version control system. But this is like distributed version control system where we can share the code among one developer or multiple developers. Mhm. Among what? Multiple developers, right? Exactly. Guys, you got the point, right? Yes. And one more point, guys. Some people are saying the Git and some people are saying the GitHub. Git and what am I? GitHub. Guys, the difference between the Git versus GitHub. That's also important point, right? One of the students faced this question. What is a Git? What is a GitHub? Guys, Git is a local repo. In our system, we can install the Git actually. It is what a local repository. Its local repo is called Git. But you created account in the GitHub, right? GitHub is a central repository. Guys, Git is a local repo installed in local work machine, right? Guys, installed in what? Uh, installed in what? Local work. Guys, local work machine, right? Exactly. Guys, Git is a local repo installed in local work machine. It's installed in what? Local work machine, right? Yeah. So now you are going to download the Git. Download the Git means what? It is like local repository. But you are creating the account in the GitHub. You are creating account in what? GitHub, right? That is nothing but what? A remote repository. I think you got the clarity, right? Git means local repo Installed in local workstation. We are installing. Now, next video I'll go for the installation of Git and I will create the account in GitHub. Create the account in what? GitHub, right? Yeah. Installed on local workstation. GitHub means what? This is a remote repo. It is a server. It is a server, right? It is a server, remote repository, you can say. I think you got the clarity. Git versus GitHub, right? Git versus what? GitHub. Git versus Git versus what? GitHub, right? Exactly. Is it clear now? Yeah, that is Git versus what? GitHub, right? Git is the local repository installed in our local machine. Yes, we have the Git. Git is local machine. Git bash, Git, those are local. GitHub is you creating account now. You have the GitHub account, right? GitHub account means that is server machine. That's a Git versus what? GitHub, right? Exactly. Yes, can you please check these all the points? I hope you understood very clearly. What the purpose of the Git means? To track the code among the multiple developers, to share the code, to manage the code, to maintain the version of the project, to secure your code in the single place. How many types of repositories? Two types. Local repositories there, remote repositories there. When you pull the project in the company, when you join the company, what we need to do? First of all, they give the Git URL. We need to pull the project. They'll give the Git access, guys. Git access, they'll give the URL. They said like clone the project. Pull the project from the Git. Pull or clone the project from the Git. Pull the project, perform the modification, push the project to Git. We have some multiple commands. What the commands I'll tell you. But this is like Git class 1. You try to take this all the class notes. Okay. You got the terminology right? Yes. Guys, in the day 2, Git class 2, I'll install the Git. Git is nothing but what local repository, right? I will install the Git and I will create the account in GitHub. Create the account in what? GitHub, right? Exactly. There is a Git class 2, guys. Can please follow the class 2? Yes, most of the guys are taking only video 1. Video 2 is not checking. I don't know what the reason. So we need to do the practicals and end to end, right? Check all the videos, do the practicals, right? There is all the points clearly written, right? Because what I feel I written, it's not like we are preparing and we are making the code, right? Real time what we are doing, what we are feeling, that points only I'm writing the points, right? Yes. Thank you guys. Like the video, comment the video, subscribe to our channel to get the more videos. Thank you. Bye.